Hello and welcome to Dice Punks, a tabletop role-playing podcast where we focus on playing full campaigns in less well-known systems. This week in episode 51, our Nobilis try to negotiate the end of the world. Hello and welcome. I'm Adam, your friendly neighborhood game master, and joining me are...
Hi, I'm Drew, and I'll be playing Leorian Cathar, Viscount of Number in Time, Jarl of a Good Party.
Hi friends, I'm Robin, and I'll be playing Alyssa Crate, the vengeful vixen of Furious Frenzy.
I'm Dez, and I will be playing Rumnet, Worldwalker, Murderer, Darkness.
Hell of a business card. All of them, really. Let's see. Experience, I believe, is the next thing up. So, Des, let's go ahead and get Romnet's XP roll for this session.
Sadly, that's nothing.
Oh, had to happen sooner.
1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9.
Oh, yeah, you almost got it straight.
Alas.
They can't all be winners, or so I'm told.
And also, it would be really weird if Romnet were suddenly straight.
What a twist!
Strange, yeah. Do we have any experience expenditure this episode?
Not from the party boy.
None from me, I think.
All right. Well, if not, then it is time for our recap from last time, which this time is courtesy of Leorian. Take it away when we're ready.
Well, we'd been staying in Urian and Rowena's inn, when there, at the top of the stairs, was Truth, who'd borne a message, an invitation to betrayal, or rather, from betrayal. That is, from the Lady Cilliant. It was wrapped in leather and made of platinum, much to Lissa's horror at the waste of the thing. She bade the tutelary spirits of the metal to rebellion, but they were not properly or sufficiently angered, so I made within Bore a forge, where Lissa made of the plate a dip pen. We decided, all of us, that there was nothing to be done but for Dosk to perform the red tooth rite on Truth, which he did. It was visceral in every available sense. Lissa put a bit of Truth's blood aside, while both Truth and Dosk slept it off. We placed Dosk upstairs, tucked him in, but Truth came to before we could do likewise for him. And Truth now found himself able to tell untruths, to his great delight. He declined for the moment to name himself, or rename himself. He did say that he could get, perhaps not, could get us into his former Chancel, Tintern. We'd see about that soon enough, Romnet's world-walking being at hand. And for his part, Romnet meanwhile checked in on old Creus's Tyr, who was sleeping, creating an odd experience for all concerned. And Vruta had been scribbling all the while, creating for future readers, if indeed there are to be future readers in this future we're making, an opportunistic proposition, a better record of how all this works. When he took up the new dip pen, however, the words were not his, but Cilliant's. We were unable to reply by similar means, so instead, Lissa prayed to Adeliova, inviting her to join our fast-growing familia. This part of the answer sticks in my memory. What is more beautiful than a storm?
Excellent, thank you. And that's where we pick up. We are in
very
the common
spoken
room
word
still?
of you, Drew.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
Fitting from tempo.
I certainly didn't. I am it out in certain places. No, certainly not.
No.
That brings us to the present, where that reply has just been received by Lissa in the common room of the inn in Bore, where we started last time too, as I'm coming to realize. But yeah, here we are. It is the three of you, Urian, Truth, and Vruta in the common room. Tohil, Rowena, and Dosk are upstairs. and we've just received from Adaliova this, sort of semi-non sequitur, semi-ominous reply prayer to Lissa's aspect of madness, that what is more beautiful than a storm?
I don't reply.
Mm-hmm. I don't blame you. Do you tell anyone else what you have heard?
Oh, I share it with everyone.
Just making sure.
Yeah.
Vruta, for his part, looks like he just took a bite of lemon peel.
Any reactions? Did you say Truth is still with us?
Truth is still with you. Truth looks kind of blank. He's just sort of staring at nothing. Then he kind of shakes himself. Oh, I guess that does kind of sound like her.
I mean, I think we have the most beautiful storms on our side.
Truth kind of cocks his head and says, Not in the Familia, though?
Not yet.
Friends,
Chuckles
not
nervously.
family.
We are fast approaching the time, perhaps, when one is in or out when it comes to allyship.
Sadly, yeah.
He sort of nods.
Should we then see whether our most beautiful storm is in?
I'm always up for that.
I blush.
I just give you a very toothy grin.
This is a bit of an aside, but I do really appreciate how easy Leorian is to embarrass is the wrong word, but like how
Fluster?
That's the word. How flusterable he is given his background as a trooper.
He spent a lot of time in his life being surprised. So before we depart, I think I take a leaf out of what Ramnet's been doing, and I think if we have a moment's downtime, I should check in with Firagi.
Mm-hmm. I don't think that anybody is going to grab you by the ear and drag you. I do
let the group know that I'll be let the group know that I'll be checking in on the cult.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so you shift your senses to your sister, and find yourself riding along mid-address. Firagi registers your presence, but does not let it fluster her or interrupt her or anything. She is sitting on a barrel in what appears to be sort of a roadside meadow. It is sort of early evening, the sun kind of just touching the horizon. And there are a number, sort of a disparate assembly, you might say a motley crew, of about 2 to 3 dozen people sitting in the grass between her and the road. She's facing them. And her voice is raised to project even over the wind that comes sweeping across the plains. And she's saying, "But all the faiths, old and new, seem to be more concerned with their own power than with any of our well-being. Shall we be held hostage by supernatural forces? No longer, I say. We have been making our way just fine, especially here in Taraxis, but elsewhere in the world as well, without the interference of the divine. Why should we fear or respect that which does not have any regard for us? Because it is powerful? No, I say. Why is it powerful? Because of our regard. At the end of the day, if we remove that, what have they to do with us?" You see some people nodding. You see some people sort of looking unsure. You see the front little row of people kind of like, being real affirmative and sort of, muttering the might say like early equivalents of this cult's version of Amen, sort of in the front row. And then she stands up from the barrel and she says, "So, take this message with you back into your towns, your guilds, your communities. Tell them to snub the altars and the idols. Turn away from the obsidian god and all others. If you know anyone who travels abroad, steal their soul so that they may spread the message with them. It is our turn now. The gods have had theirs, and what have they done? Naught but enslave us." And she pauses for a moment, portentously, and then produces from behind the barrel with a flourish a small traveling harp, basically just a lyre with more strings, and sort of starts to pluck at it as she intones in what it takes you a moment to recognize as sort of an old Taraxan tongue from kind of before the region had unified, and you're pretty sure she's getting some of the grammar wrong. But the gist of the whole thing is that people should rely on themselves and not on, in the original, it is fortune, but she certainly seems to be associating that with, supernatural and spiritual forces. It's a very short little thing, more of punctuation than a story. And when she's done, a few people applaud awkwardly, and the sun continues to sink slowly into the horizon. But she delivers a sort of curt bow, not flourishing at a trooper's bow, but rather a sort of more formal one. And then turns to where you see she's got like a wagon set up with a few others on the side of the road, and people start to disperse from the crowd, some to this encampment and some to set up their own along the roadside. Once she's in the tent, though, she lets the flap close behind her, she's in the wagon. Once she's in the wagon, she closes the, sort of flap behind her and sort of settles into a seat built into the side of it and says, "Brother dearest, to what do I owe the pleasure?"
Well, news. I came to see how the cult was going. You seem to be doing extremely well. I bring supernatural news. I almost shouted it in your voice, which would have been terribly rude, so of course I didn't, but truth is on our side. Not just in the figurative sense, which was always true, but in the literal, nothing's literal, but you know what I mean. Truth. Ours.
Well, that's encouraging. Maybe I can work that in. Or maybe not. It would encourage supernatural thinking. I must say, this is unexpectedly fun, but not terribly profitable, so if you have any way of conveying sustenance for us, I would appreciate it.
Well, what raises money like a good party? Remind me the rules. Can I perform miracles while in the guise of an anchor?
You can. It is, I believe, and this is without me checking the rules since we haven't used these very much, but I believe it is limited by the level of your spirit. I think you can perform miracles up to the level at which you have spirit through your anchors.
Okay. So Leorian has fairly high spirit, I'll remind the listener. So I could do a lesser creation of revelry within the encampment. So I think without necessarily putting it in those, dry mechanical terms, I say to Furagi, I do believe that you are stirring their spirits, that you are moving their intellects, but perhaps coin might change hands if revelry entered the arena.
This is rather more indirect than I had hoped, but do as you think is best. I am, after all, working for you, she says with dry and somewhat acerbic tone.
If we come upon the Nobilis of purest gold, then we can produce it out of thin air. That would be convenient, but for the moment, this is the best I can offer.
She scoffs and says, "If gold becomes less scarce, it will also become less valuable. I know that you never really took to the accounting side of these things, but I would have thought around as many merchant families you would have learned something."
I believe there would be a period during which no one knew that it was abundant, and those among whom it was abundant first. But you're right, not really. Sums not my specialty. However,
she chuckles.
I do believe that I could help you in this. If far be it for me to criticize, but it seems that your sermons are not precisely moving the people to, move. And I think perhaps if we did, that might be the one missing element which turned this into a profitable venture as well as a necessary one.
She nods slowly. She says, I don't suppose there's a way you could delegate some of your power to me. If you have revelry at your command, could I have it at my command? Because then it would not require you to show up and induce it. In mechanical terms, what she's suggesting is that you confer upon her a gift, essentially. For our players and listeners, this has not been attempted by the PCs before, and certainly you don't have to do it now. But that is where Faragi's mind goes.
No, there's no time like the present, especially because the present time is a time which the future may not be. So, I confer upon her the gift, a gift, I should say, of revelry. Wherein now, does this have to be imbued in an object, or can it be in her person?
You can imbue it in her person. I will say that this does rather get beyond lesser creation.
Sure.
So it will involve some miracle points, but fortunately, since you are working the miracle on her and not through her, it is not limited by your ability to cast miracles through your anchors. So you will be able to use, any level of miracle. Because it is aimed at her.
The quickest of table talk with my mental models of my friends, if not them themselves, since I'm Elswhom right now.
Elswhom.
This is probably worth it, right? We need to grow the flock, as it were.
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
what's to come. Okay.
It is worth it.
All right. So this would be I guess this would be a domain miracle.
Right. Creation of revelry.
Would this be a greater creation of revelry?
It would have to be a major creation at level 7.
Okay. Let's do that. So that's 3 domain miracle points, yeah? Or would it come from spirit, given the nature of the thing?
Well, no, it would be domain. I don't know what level, looking at your character sheet, okay, no, I do see it. Yeah, revelry is at 3, so that would be 4 miracle points.
4, got it, totally.
4
sounds good. Sold.
All right.
So since I can imbue this into her person, this goes into her sort of greatest musical and rhetorical asset, which is her voice. She will gain the ability to move the listener to revelry, the nature of which will depend upon the speech, the song. She will have to learn to paint with those colors, but she'll be able to do so over and above what a mortal could do.
Sure. And I will actually also give you the option here. I was thinking I would just sort of hand wave this as a basic thing, but I'll also give you the option, if you want to pour some spirit miracle points into it, you can make it something. Basically, this would be adding purchase points to the price of the gift. For listeners who may or may not remember or be aware, gift costs are calculated in Nobilis based on a variety of factors, including do you have to use a miracle to activate them? What level is that miracle that you have to use to activate them? Are they local? Are they common? Right? There's a few things here. So you can basically remove barriers to her using this more frequently or more powerfully by pouring spirit miracle points into it. Currently, what this gift looks like is that basically she can periodically activate this for a short time, probably at the end of a sermon or an address, to sort of create revelry in her listeners. If you want her to be able to use it at will or constantly or more powerfully, all of those are things that putting additional spirit miracle points into it could do.
Sure. I don't think it's a problem that it's local. Necessarily, but what would it cost to remove essentially most of those other restrictions if she could do it essentially at will?
Sure, if you wanted it to be at will with no particular cost, keeping it to her, immediate area, the sound of her voice, let's say, another 4 spirit miracle points.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
And I assume the one other restriction would be if there is some divine force trying to counteract the revelry. She, being mortal at the end of the day, wouldn't be able to penetrate it. Yeah.
Would not have penetration.
Sure.
Yeah. And I'm not actually going to give you the option to add penetration to it.
I didn't figure you were. I just was for both for the listener and for my own clarity.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought it up. I hadn't really been thinking about penetration. Yeah. So interestingly, you get to feel this from Firagi's point of view as you feel it take hold. A strong sort of tingling sensation passes through her body from her extremities to her throat, and then sort of like her vision goes like the gamma was turned up too high, and then sort of back to normal, and she sort of shakes herself and goes, "Oh. That was remarkable. I don't know that I'll be able to sleep."
Well, nothing replaces sleep quite like a good revel. Apologies if you were looking forward to some rest, though.
She chuckles and says, "Dear brother, I'm a trooper." And leaves it at that.
There's nothing more to say. I nod in the person of her, and I withdraw back to my own self.
Sure. Leorian comes on back. This whole exchange has taken 5 minutes. If there's anything specific that people back in the common room wanted to get done in those 5 minutes, this is the time to let me know. Otherwise, we'll move on.
We should reach out to the rest of the family, I realize. So I will check in with both NB and Apatia to let them know the plan.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is probably taking the form of prayers, I would assume.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, and so we can, sort of compress this if you'd like into just sort of sending a missive.
Mm-hmm.
And if there is anything that you focus on or leave out, this is the time to say so. Otherwise, I'll just assume that basically you give them our recap from the top of the episode.
Yeah. That's essentially what I do, except to Apatia, because I know she has Bloodstone in her possession.
Mm-hmm.
I add on the fact that Bloodstone can be used to kill gods and has a sort of one-time use sort of deal to it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, so you send both of those, and there's no like instant reply, but they got sent,
Mm-hmm.
and presumably you may hear from either or both in when they have a moment.
I also add, like, NB is very casual and like, hey, hope you're doing well, and that sort of deal. To Apatia's, I add more of a, we're probably walking into a trap kind of tone to it, particularly with Lady Cilliand.
Certainly. Romnet, anything you're getting up to in 5 minutes or so in the common room?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Vruta, during this time, has resumed with some trepidation using his own sort of charcoal pencil, his jotting in his notebook. Nothing untoward seems to have happened there, and Truth has taken a seat and sort of folded his arms, resting his forearms on the edge of it, kind of clasping his hands. He's sort of looking at his hands, and one of his legs is sort of jittering a little bit, like he's, energetic or anxious or both. Urian is artificially busying himself behind the bar with tasks that definitely didn't need to be done, but are plausible for an innkeeper to do. And we'll say that around about the time that Lissa gets Apatia's prayer, kind of wrapped up, is when Leorian kind of comes back to himself from visiting Firagi.
I let the others know what's gone on, and that the cult seems to be going reasonably well, and that it should be going better now that I've passed on to her. Well, I'd never admit this to her, but she's smarter than I am, and now she's also partier than I am.
She sounds like a delight.
You'd like her very much, and she you, I dare say.
I like this. This will not be a branch of possibility that is pursued in this campaign, but there is a version of this where you have essentially put Firagi on the path to becoming the founder of LMFAO.
Too strange a possibility to contemplate. I did on the sheet, just for you and for the listener. I just sketched out really quickly. I called the gift the sound of the revel, or alternately the power of positive partying.
Okay, that is
a little bit more Andrew WK.
It is. Which there was an Andrew WK reference previously, so yes. But
True,
yes, the LMFAO path would be a branch on this tree in the tree of worlds.
She's going to become Firagi WK. As a brief aside, the record store near where I went to college had Andrew WK's sort of debut album in it, but they had a black censor plate taped to it to cover up where his nose is bleeding. I was like, what?
It's not an anime.
choice.
That's not what a nosebleed means. Okay, well.
Yeah, it's very, very strange.
Well, sure, we can't be obscene, so not Andrew WK. It's for Agi's LMFAO. It's LMPHAO.
How did I not think of that? For the listener, Firagi's name is spelled with a PH at the beginning.
It occurred to me as I was saying that they probably don't know that. Yes.
This was my first time discovering it, and I learned from the LMPHAO.
All right, so everybody's back in the common room, and you've delivered this news. What are our next steps?
I suppose we should think about embarking. It occurs to me that we're leaving people behind, right? I think Veruta is staying back.
No discussion has been made yet, so these are open decisions.
We've established that he's not thrilled about the idea of going, but I don't think we've actually asked him to pass that point.
I suggest that we do leave someone here to watch over Dosk, as this may be a very well-timed and calculated thing to leave him vulnerable.
She's demonstrated an ability to get in here, yes.
True. Mm-hmm. Truth is also staying, right? But he's not going to be in fighting Trim. Or is Truth coming? Okay.
Well, he is still in recovery mode. No discussion has been made of whether he will go beyond the entrance with you.
Understood. Yeah, he was going to try to help us get in. Sure.
Yeah.
Because someone who knows how to defend against a possible attack should be here in the not unlikely event of a possible attack.
I think someone also who can send us. Where did my sister go?
She's upstairs.
I start just casually shouting her name as obnoxiously as possible. I hate to quote Family Guy, but I do the lesser equivalent of mom, mother, mom, but Rowena styled.
Sure, give me just 1 second. I realized I left my dice over here.
We're all punks, no dice.
I mean, Den has worked very hard to make sure that that's not the case.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I do have my Den dice right here. This is going to be my first Den dice session. Let the record show.
This is also my first Den dice session.
Pouring out the dice from the bag that Den got me, at least the 10-sided ones. The extremely shiny 6-sided ones I have left in their bag for now to be protected.
I feel like when I roll the very shiny 6-sided ones, they'll be like single use and then they'll disappear into a puff of golden smoke.
I half wonder if that's going to be what happens as well. I really want to just use them as like a fate roll, even though we use only 10-sided dice in this.
These
are super special.
Time, the way that I use fate rolls is with like a dividing the range of the dice into 2 or 3, to see what happens. So I could still very easily still use the 6-sided dice for that. Let's see.
Let me put the shiny math away. Oh no.
You yell once and you're getting ready to yell again when you hear stomping. And Rowena appears at the top of the staircase and she goes, "What is it?"
Hi, sister. We have to go on a mission, and Dosk is currently sleeping some things off. You're still connected to me, right?
Regrettably.
So, I would like to have you watch out for Dosk, because if something were to happen to him, you would also have something happen to you.
Yes, that does seem to be the case, doesn't it?
Regretfully.
Very well. We'll keep him safe, and if we can't, we'll let you know.
And I mean, keep a very close eye on him. Our invitation to depart may be in fact a trap.
Yes, I see. Well, your wish is my command, oh my goddess.
I could
We'll
get
keep an
used to
eye
that.
on him. She gets that look that Vruta had earlier, like she just bit into a lemon peel.
Lovely speaking with you, as always, my dear sister.
Yes, yes. Be safe, sister. I would hate to have anything happen to me because you were foolish.
That would be a tragedy, wouldn't it?
The very definition. And she turns around to go back down the hallway, but this time toward the room where you laid Dusk.
It's really good to see you two getting along.
Yes. Getting along. You don't have siblings. No, you do have a sibling.
A bunch, actually.
How?
Oh, in all sorts of ways. I mean, they're speaking. That's more than I can say for me. And some of this is another topic.
Yeah, I suppose we have a bit of a point there that we are speaking.
They sure are speaking.
Volumes.
But on the plus side, we do have someone now intently watching Dosk, if only for self-preservation.
But at the very least, she's in a position to tell you immediately should anything become amiss.
Urian chimes in from behind the bar and he says, I'll be looking out too. I'll be down here. If anyone comes in this way, I'll give you a shout.
We're just a prayer away.
He nods affably, and Vruta sort of, if it is all the same to you, I propose that I stay here as well. I don't know how much good Flair will do on this endeavor, and this way at least we'll have some divine efficacy here. If that is all right, at least.
That is quite all right. For
Seems reasonable.
Quite all right. Yeah, I mean, this is a good time to flex your divine, divinity. You're here, you're new to your domain, but here you always have power specific to being here. You can make and unmake. So, enjoy.
He nods. He says, I will do my best, and sort of grimaces at his notebook page, and he says, I will continue my study of currents of the cosmos and see if anything comes to the fore that hasn't before. So I'll be sure to let you know right away.
Well, thanks for that. I suppose then all that's left to do is to see what lies ahead.
Truth nods glumly. Yeah, I think it's about that time. Where to first? Any stops you need to make before we try and visit my former mistress?
Would sure be handy to have a storm.
It would be. If he's willing to attend. I will pray to Rameless.
Right. What do you say?
Is there a way to make the prayer... Well, no. I don't want to make the prayer an open channel, because it's, my favorite shipwreck.
Well, they do... The way that prayers work, right, is you think something in someone's direction, and they can think something back at you if they are also divine.
Mm-hmm.
It's as private a channel as anything is when you're ennobled.
It's more like IMs than VoIP, though.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. It's inherently a little bit discreet and asynchronous.
Mm-hmm.
So, I will make a prayer to my tempting tempest. We are getting ready to travel to a new to a new place that may very well be a trap. If you could give us your company, it would be greatly appreciated.
There's a space after your prayer of about 5 heartbeats, and then you hear Rimalus's voice in return. He says, "My lady of furious joy, I would love to accompany you, but alas, we are entertaining guests here. It would be terribly rude to leave them unattended."
Guests?
Well, a guest, I suppose. She says she knows you. She looks remarkably similar to you, in fact. Adeliova, she says her name is.
Oh. So you were the storm that she was referring to.
Oh, she's mentioned to me, has she? That is most flattering.
I would be careful.
Careful, you say?
Yeah, be careful with that one, my friend. We're preparing to visit her god's Chancel, and that is the trap that I fear, and you may be in it as well.
That is concerning. She was here in the Foregate village, but has gone into Fermata in the last hour or so. She spoke to me at some length. I found her company most agreeable, though I was unsure what her aim was. She had made it clear she was going to talk to Philia, but it would, given this information, not surprise me if she was headed to the manifestation as well.
I also found her company agreeable when I had met her last. She is someone we hope to be able to get on our side.
I see. Shall I endeavor to persuade her?
With due caution. I don't want anything happening to you, Philia, or NB for that matter.
My lady, when have you ever known me to be anything but delicate?
I know that you are capable of fantastic things, my friend. Delicate or not.
Ha ha ha! Diplomatically put. I will do my best, and I will attempt to discern what has transpired. That's the word your GM was looking for. I will endeavor to discern what has transpired between her and Philia or Imbi when I get the chance. If I can, I'll update you.
I appreciate that, and may our paths cross again soon.
Oh, before I let you go here, I believe the Sirthan is still about. I haven't spoken to him, but caught a glimpse of an Toritas and did a little investigating. Shall I do anything with him in particular?
If you could get him someplace where we could retrieve him eventually, that'd be ideal. I'm glad he's okay after what he was last witness to. I'm surprised to hear that they're still around, because we thought Sirtha might have been taken off the table.
Yes, I was under that impression as well, but nevertheless, that squirrely one. I don't think I know his name. Anyway, I saw him moving in and out of the gate a couple of times.
Interesting, trying to travel, I guess.
Perhaps. That would make sense. If I see him again, I'll try to have a friendly conversation.
You're the best at those.
Haha, you flatter me, my lady.
Well, take care.
You as well. I anxiously await our next meeting.
Excellent. I will relay all this information to the team.
Sure. as you finish, sort of giving you reports, you also get a somewhat distracted kind of confirmatory response from Apatia. Like, she's basically saying, like, message received, but it seems like she's occupied.
All right. Well, we've done what we can.
We have it that. Perhaps we don't dare delay much longer.
No, I have a feeling that pieces are moving on the board around us as we speak.
Oh, absolutely.
Truth nods glumly. With something of a heavy sigh, Truth sort of levers himself up, using the surface of the table, pushing the chair back, and sort of visibly steels himself and says, all right, well, maybe a little tricky to navigate, but where can you put us out when we leave Boar? What are the limits on where we can land?
I look at Leorian.
Yeah.
Do I know that?
No.
I say, I don't know that.
Do any of us know that?
Nope. Never really.
Is that something I could
test.
try to figure out with World Walker?
You can, yeah. It would appear that you can leave Boar to basically any suitably threshold-like location that you can clearly picture in your mind.
I will convey that.
Truth sort of looks a little thoughtful and goes, okay, well, in that case, what happens if I try to get us somewhere and it doesn't really work? Do we just stay here, or do we end up like in the ether or whatever?
I'm not the most experienced one here, but I, for one, have never ended up nowhere.
Truth chuckles. I guess that would be the same as staying here, wouldn't it? Ending up nowhere.
This is an approximation or perhaps an instantiation of nowhere, yes.
He nods. Well, then I guess there's nothing to do but try. All right. Anybody ever been to the... Golly, I don't remember what they call it. There's a continent to the north of Cirtha?
No.
All right. Well, see what we can do. Might be easier if we all kind of grab on and he extends his hands.
Yeah, hold hands.
Yep.
Yeah, so the
I'll
four
take
of
one
you...
of his hands. Give it a squeeze.
Yeah, link up.
Take Lissa's hand.
I give that
the free
hand,
one.
your hand a squeeze too.
Squeeze back.
I take Truth's other hand, and in fact, I form a circle. Herby.
Ring around the rosy.
Pockets full of nothing.
And Bloodstone.
And Bloodstone.
Etc. We all go somewhere.
We all kill gods.
Yes. That's the version I like.
Yeah, there we go. So, Truth concentrates, hands joined, Truth concentrates for a moment, and Boar sort of blurs around you. And you find yourselves stepping... Well, I guess you weren't moving. Stepping is not maybe the right word. Falling a very short distance stationary, 3 or 4 inches, let's say, onto sort of grassy soil broken by ruined masonry. You are just on the outside of an archway that is one of the very few parts of a ruin that stands before you.
Is it in fact an abbey?
I don't honestly think that's a concept that Taraxans would have, but for our players, It could have been an abbey. If there's not a whole lot left of it, it does have gray stone. It does have sort of archways and walls, and it's taller on one side than on the other, what remains of it. So very plausibly could have been an abbey. But yeah, just a structure. The overall sort of atmosphere here is kind of a moving into autumn kind of feeling. There's long grass and some trees sort of dot the distance. There is this ruin here, and what seems like it may once have been like a road that has been overgrown a little ways in front of you. That is to say, you are facing when you arrive away from the ruin behind you, which you can look at your leisure, and towards this sort of relatively straight cut in the land that has since been overgrown. It was probably a road once. There are no people in evidence, and there's sort of a light swirling wind moving through the space with a susurrus sound. The sun seems weirdly bright here to, Taraxan sensibilities. And Truth, for his part, he looks around a little bit and he says, all right, yeah, no, I think this is where I'm meant to be. Okay, let's head into the ruin here. There's a particular door that we need. And we have the invitation, right?
Yeah.
Look to Lissa.
I imagine I took it back at some point in time, but I do one of those checking my pockets and paranoia before realizing it's exactly where I put it.
Right, making sure that it's on you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You've got it. And you sort of pull it out to like demonstrate. Yes, here it is. Truth nods. So, all right, right this way. And leads you through the arch that you sort of emerged out of to get here, and around some collapsed walls and sort of down what would probably have once been a hallway, to at the end of it you see there are some very simple wooden double doors with sort of iron ring handles that are incongruously like intact. They are weathered, but not nearly as weathered as the rest of this place. So Truth has brought you to these unlikely doors in this ruin and sort of gestured at them and says, that's the way in and out I know about anyway. I don't know what to tell you to expect in there. It's mostly beyond my experience. The heart of the chancel is, you'll know it if you see it. It's sort of a drawing room, sort of a bedchamber, but I can't tell you what the rest of it looks like or what to expect. I think I've been kept deliberately ignorant. I know you'll be careful, but be careful. It is the one place where you can meaningfully hurt her, but it's also the place she's most powerful. And if you want me to come with you, I will.
That's up to you, friend. I know it won't be easy coming with us and standing up to her, so whatever you're comfortable with.
He looks thoughtful, and then he looks guilty, and he says, if it's really up to me, I'd rather not. It's
Then
nice to be...
Don't.
It's really up to you.
He nods. He says, there's no reason I shouldn't be able to hear a prayer from within. So, call if you want to, if you need to. I want all of you to be okay.
Thank you. I'm glad you trusted us, and I'm glad you're with us.
I'm glad you trusted me, and I'm glad to be with you. I'll stay here for at least a little while before I head back to Boar, but I should be able to get back quickly if I need to.
Be safe.
Yes, please that.
I'll do my best if you do. And he gives sort of a wan smile.
Deal.
He nods, and then looks at the door and says, if you've got the invitation and you open the door, it should take you where you need to go. And then he sort of chuckles to himself a little bit. I don't know, adverb here, drolly, and murmurs, Godspeed, and then sort of sits down with his back to one of the ruined walls.
I'd like to do a divination of murder.
Okay, what's the question?
Are the deaths that make up this chancel inside it or out?
What a perfect question for illustrating how weird this system can get sometimes with basic concepts.
Congratulations on your grammar problem.
I need that card. I would send it a lot.
I think what we really need is for it to be a meme that you can just post back to people on Twitter or whatever.
Because there need to be more ways to be unhelpful in discourse on Twitter?
Well, on Twitter specifically, that's all we have left is being unhelpful in discourse.
It's true. They've even unverified the Pope.
Yeah, it's a shame about Drill. Oh, you mean the other Pope? Yeah.
Yeah, no, the one in Rome.
Sure.
As someone on Tumblr posted the other day, now we just need a cardinal in Avignon to decide to be the funniest person on the internet.
Absolutely. It's like the Ever Given, after it got unstuck, the captain / pilot had the opportunity to do the funniest thing ever in history.
Yep.
The drill thing is particularly amusing because when you change your name, you get unchecked, right?
Yep,
so
yep.
They gave
this
him,
is being reported actively on Tumblr.
Yeah, they gave him the check, and then he changed his name, and it was gone, and they gave it back to him. He's just trying to ping pong it.
Currently, they've locked his account, so he can't change his name back. So, when they locked it, his handle was Slave of Woke, or Slave to Woke, I think.
Yeah.
So now he's ranting at them that he doesn't like woke anymore, and woke is bad, and he wants help. And no one's. Yeah, it's a whole thing.
I've seen it characterized as a battle between the best poster and the worst poster, which is pretty funny.
The best thing I saw, that it was always going to end this way because Drill is the person Elon wants to be more than anything, and will never be. Didn't mean to derail.
You're all right. So, who is going to open the door?
Well, first there's my pending question.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, where we got derailed.
We're out an answer whether it's helpful or not.
It's true. So there is one murder where you are standing in front of this door. The other 99, and seemingly a lot more in excess of that, are on the other side of this door.
As a way of knocking, I will end this murder.
Interesting. So, That is going to be a level 5 lesser destruction, which is free for you. Are you putting any penetration on it?
Not at first.
It is just a knock after all.
Sure. You end the murder on your side of the door, but you can feel the sort of scraping sensation that tells you that the ones on the other side of the door will not be so easily undone.
Useful information.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed. There is no particular reaction that you can observe to your destruction of this murder on the outside.
I just didn't want to be caught inside with all the murders on the outside.
That was a good call.
Yeah, definitely. And now, one less murder.
Quite.
One less murder in this town.
I suppose I pull the pen out
Mm-hmm.
and making sure that Leorian and Romnet are with me. Ideally, I probably... You know what? I'm going to encourage
Everybody
them to put their hands on my shoulders or like take a hold of me just so I don't get sucked in by myself, because that is
Sure.
suddenly a very big fear.
Yeah. You have them hold on to you. You hold the pen. And I'm going to assume, at least, you pull open one of the doors.
Mm-hmm.
As it opens, if anybody has played enough Hades to know the little sound of revelry you get when you accept a Dionysus boon, sort of imagine that sound if it was the sound of like a Versailles party. String instruments and tittering, washes over you, and then with no sense of a visual beyond the door and with no sense of movement, you are inside. Now, I'm going to click over to some character sheets here. Let's see.
Gotta get ready the den dice.
Den dice are armed. I got the ones that have been behaving the best in test rolls ready to rock.
Yeah,
So,
I also
preserve
did
us.
my little superstition, and the ones that were very kind to me I have in my hand.
3 of them did form a 666 in testing, so those are definitely on board. We'll see what happens.
hell yeah. So, for our listeners, Lissa has 3 spirit. Romnet has 3 spirit. Leorian has 4 spirit. I'm going to do something that is totally counter to the spirit of the Nobilis rules, but totally within the spirit of this campaign. And I'm going to have
And how many more times do you have to use spirit as a word before it loses all meaning?
Spirit.
Loses all spirit.
I'm going to have everybody roll the number of 10-sided dice that corresponds to their spirit stats. So 3, 3, and 4. And whether you get any matches or not, I'd like you to tell me what you get.
Let's see. 752.
752.
388.
388.
0714.
4. Okay, so Romnet
Excuse me,
looks like he's-
10714. That was, yeah.
Sure.
Just to be clear. Yeah.
Romnet looks like he's the only one that got a match. So, that does not mean that all is lost with our others.
Rocks fall,
but
we all die. Okay, got
it does mean
Yeah.
that we are going to start with Romnet. So, the next thing you know, Romnet, you are in a dimly lit, lavishly appointed sort of ballroom hall. It is longer than it is wide. There are stained glass windows that don't appear to have anything on the other side of them on one side, and a wall of paintings on the other long wall. At either end are large open doors leading to chambers that you can't see a lot of, just movement and color. It is... The ballroom hall you're in is crowded. Well, let me rephrase that. It is full, but not quite crowded. Almost everyone in it is dancing, though there are some people standing on sides and in corners, drinking, eating, chatting. The majority of folks are dancing, you included. You are wearing an unfamiliar outfit. It is seemingly quite lavish, and consists of very constricting layers made of fine cloth and dark colors with silver accents, sort of a silk cravat in a reflective silver material around your throat.
By restrictive, I take it to mean that it is somewhat difficult to move in?
Yes, and not like restrictive as in like a straitjacket, just as in it is layered, fitted, mostly heavy cloth. Not what you would pick for, let's say, getting into a fight. Formal wear, perhaps. You also note that you are wearing a mask. It covers from about the middle of your forehead down to your upper lip, and flares out to either side of your face, but you do not know what it looks like from afar. The lighting is provided by sort of wall-mounted, fairly high on the wall, mounted candelabra that have lit candles in them, and small chandeliers periodically through the middle of the room descending from the ceiling that appear to run on lamp oil. Overall, the room is quite dim. The floor is a richly stained wood with a lot of polish on it. The walls appear to be marble with wood and plaster accents. The stained glass is mostly quite abstract, though very fanciful. And the paintings seem to depict mostly... Well, they first look like landscapes, though you can see figures in them when you look closely, either in the foreground near the corners or very, very distantly towards the middle of these paintings. And the landscapes are not of places that you can imagine really existing. Their geography is implausible down to surreal. Colors are usually also wrong from what you can see. You are
Bad
dancing.
AI art, check.
More... somewhere between bad AI art and lesser surrealism. Surrealist painter. You are dancing when you sort of take all this in. You are dancing with a slender, dapper gentleman with dark skin and fancifully coiffed hair. He's shorter than you are. He's wearing sort of navy blue with a sort of military cast to his clothes, including sort of silver piping on epaulets. And his mask portrays something of like a wolfish cast, done in blue enamel and white accents. He's a very good dancer.
Excellent. I do my best to keep up with him at the same time as I beg pardon, but I don't believe that I have been given the luxury of an introduction.
He gives you something of a wry smile as he adds a flourish here or there. You are fairly well suited to this kind of situation. You keep up with him.
I mean, I do have 2 in a master diet dance.
Exactly. You keep up with him fairly well, though he seems pretty clear to you, trying to maintain sort of a role as the better, more accomplished dancer between the two of you, and he gives you something of a wry smile, as he sort of steps away and then close again, and he says in a rich, warm voice that I have no hope of emulating accurately. Says, "You must be new here. Introductions are rather against the rules, aren't they?" And
I have in fact just arrived.
that is interesting, for I've been dancing with you the past 3 numbers. This one is a favorite of mine. And, he sort of spins you out and back in. And the number draws to a sort of slowing close, and he pulls you close, looking slightly up at you, and he says, "Could it be that you've remembered? That is rare, but it's reason for caution." He bows over your hand, brushes his lips against it, and steps back. He says, "The orchestra will be on break for the next 10 minutes or so."
Do most not remember a time prior to the revel?
Most don't indeed, and those who do usually, well, we don't see them again.
Ah, well. I'm here upon an invitation.
Ooh,
It was not to be refused.
that is rare indeed, or at least I think it is. It's been a pleasure dancing with you, but you'll excuse me if I'm afraid to associate with you any closer. He chuckles. This is
Honestly, that is probably wise, and I will give my... I will ghost miracle darkness and murder both.
he both leans back and grins, and he says, "Should you survive, you're likely to be the life of the party. There's a refreshment table."
That would be one of my friends instead, but yes.
He looks curious, and he says, "Well, there's a refreshment table in the next hall over, and I do hope you enjoy your stay. I suppose that I won't see you again if you succeed, but if you fail, you know where to find me." And he gives you another
Indeed.
bow, and turns and moves through the crowd. The crowd at this point, couples are, sort of separating, chatting, forming into little groups, moving towards refreshments and towards the wall.
Do I see my friends?
You don't.
I pray to revelry.
What do you say?
So it's a really big party. Do you know where in it you are?
Okay. In the event that you have to wait for a response, is there anything in particular you want to do while that time elapses?
I will go toward the refreshments table, destroy any murders that are in the food that I might consume, and have a bit.
Certainly. With that, we'll switch over for a moment to Leorian. Let me, I suppose, do it this way. True. You are someone, and you are at a party. In fact, you've been at this party. It's a very good party, but there's an edge of danger to it. You are currently in a moonlit courtyard, or perhaps it would be more precise to say moonslit courtyard. If you look up, you can see a silvery moon above you, mostly full, but not quite, no stars in the sky. If you look down, you can see verdant grass forming sort of a latticework over another night sky with a much bluish-greener moon, mostly concealed. A slender crescent below you. Left, right, front, and back are tall hedges of green and purple leaves, and in the middle is a fountain. Doesn't depict anything, really. There's just tiers of pools that catch water and then drip it down to the lower basins until it's finally in the lower level of the fountain where it is recycled into the top. There are a few people out here. Several couples seated on benches in your periphery. No one very, very close to you. You have at once the impression that you've only just arrived and that you've been here forever. You also have something of a sense of danger, but you can't really place it. And you're not really sure what you might have been doing before you were in this courtyard, though you seem to remember having some fun, and if pressed, you would be unable to provide a name. You perceive that you are dressed in silky, gauzy layers, in a range of bright jewel tones, most of which harmonize, only a few of which clash, and that you are wearing a mask that covers you from forehead to upper lip, though you aren't entirely sure what it might be of.
Do I have anything on my person other than the clothes on my back and the mask on my face?
When you think about it, and not before, yes, you have instrument cases.
I take out one of these instrument cases and see what's in it.
You open an instrument case to see a sort of horn.
As far as I can tell,
kind of familiar.
I don't know what it is. As far as I can tell, do I know why I would have it?
Well, you seem to have it because you thought about it.
This danger I'm feeling, is any of it coming from the horn?
It's pretty ambient, hard to determine a direction. While you regard the horn, though, you hear a voice that you can't place, but you feel like you should be able to, just in the back of your mind. It is the prayer that Ramnet gave us a moment ago. It floats kind of into your consciousness, and you feel it struggling to connect with something in your mind.
So I'm being addressed as revelry, and I'm being asked if I know where I am in this revel. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Well, I guess I asked the question, do I? Relative to anyone or anything else?
Looking around, you can actually see a door leading to an indoor space with a sort of warm honey light, dim but welcoming. And you can see windows colored with the same light spilling out of them, filtered through the colored panes in no particular pattern. But when you try to perceive the building, it sort of twists away from your awareness. You feel like you've seen a different sky before, and you feel like you've been in a different outdoors before. But it's all quite elusive.
Can I talk back to the voice that was talking to me? Talk's the wrong word.
Definitely give it a try. How do you address your communique?
I say, I don't know where I am, or who I am, or who you are. And I hope that's helpful.
Okay. You have no idea if you have successfully communicated or not.
It's par for the course. All right.
now that you have kind of gotten a little bit of your bearings, what are you planning to do with yourself? You're not sure why you had come out here or what you were doing here. It's all relatively vague now.
I withdraw the mysterious horn from the case, and I try to... What do you do with a horn? Do I know?
Interesting. You take it out of the case and regard it, and then you roll command plus perform music.
Sounds
7 plus
about
an
right.
expert die.
As with any musical roll, expert is set to 6 because we live in hope.
We do.
That is not the demon's roll, unfortunately, but it is 3 4s. Or 2 7s, interestingly.
Okay. Which do you wish to use?
I'll take the 7s.
Okay, you take the 7s. You look at the horn and you try to kind of think like what you would do with it, and before you actually realize you've moved, you sort of, settled it up near your head and you've put your mouth to the mouthpiece, and you begin to play, sort of learning what it is that you do to play this as you find yourself doing it. The sound that comes out is brazen in a literal and figurative sense. And you find that it is contemplative in its tempo and melody. Perhaps even a little bit of a poor fit for the sound the instrument makes, but it's just what's coming out of you. And it stirs something. You feel a sense of déjà vu. Other people in the courtyard sort of look at you with expressions ranging from blank to curious to reproachful. But none of them approach you and none of them say anything.
I play quite specifically at each of them, and I look for a reaction that might tell me something of who they are or who I am.
Interesting. As you play at each of the people in the courtyard, their gaze sharpens on you, and then they stand and leave the courtyard, going back indoors. The expressions on their faces they do so vary, as they did before, but as you focus in on each of them, they have broadly similar responses in that way. As the last of them heads indoors, your song trails off, and you feel that this must be something you've done before, but there's something of a fog in your mind.
A thought comes to me that I have no context for, and that thought is, tough crowd. I think I put the instrument, the horn, my first friend, as far as I know, back in the case, and I see if I can follow the people inside.
You walk towards the door, and as you enter, you find yourself in a richly appointed drawing room. A deep green carpet on the floor, a variety of wood and leather furniture with brass bindings, a roaring fire with a sort of sculpted mantel, a variety of creatures you're pretty sure you haven't seen before, with their heads mounted on the walls, as well as some portraits of people that you don't recognize dressed to your mind strangely. And most of the people you see in here are not people you saw in the courtyard. There are doors leading out on either side of this room. There's also a a person dressed all in black, with a black veil over the lower part of their face, standing in one corner of the room playing a stringed instrument with a bow. You didn't hear this music outside the courtyard. Until you crossed through the door, you didn't hear it at all. But they're playing sort of a very slow, very serene melody on it. And they don't seem to be paying attention to anyone else in the room. It's you and maybe 4 others. The room is sizable for a drawing room, not that big overall.
I'm delighted to find someone who speaks my language. So, I draw out the horn and I see if it's possible to play along with whatever they're playing.
Very well. Roll command plus perform music, 7 plus an expert die.
Expert's not moving. Although perhaps it ought to have, because that's 2 10s.
2 10s. You match the sort of serene melody with the brazen sound of the horn, but as soon as you sound the first note, the string player stops and looks up at you and then is gone, just between one moment and the next. No visual indication, no puff of smoke, no fading or blurring. They're just gone. No one else in the room seems to have noticed, although your horn playing has drawn a little bit of attention from the others in the room, and they start to get up to leave.
I play until I see whether the crowd will dissipate entirely. I will chase them through this entire house if I need to, in order to find a place where this is appreciated.
Very well. So we're going to leave you for a moment playing the horn in the drawing room. Now, very briefly, I'm not going to give you the opportunity to do too much, but we're going to jump back to Romnet real quick. You have gone over to the refreshment table, and while none of the various desserts, meats, and cheeses are immediately familiar to you, they don't contain any murders. And what you have is relatively tasty. There's punch that does not immediately evoke any fruit with which you are familiar, but it is both sweet, cool, and refreshing. There are plenty of other people at the refreshment table. Their garb is varied but uniformly lavish. Their masks go from representative to very abstract, though they are mostly covering from above the brow to just below the nose and flaring out a little bit from the sides.
How many folks around here have autoritates?
Autoritaten.
I have been thinking on the proper pluralization of this for most of the campaign.
Don't ever say that around Melissa.
And I've settled on it being third declension.
I defer to your Latin expertise. None of the people you can see from here seem to have an auctoritas.
Are they real people?
Interesting question. How do you propose to find out?
Oh no, it's a Cartesian
Would they be susceptible?
Party. Sorry.
Would they be susceptible to murder?
Oh,
interesting.
Nice.
Yes. In fact, some of them have been murdered more than once.
Hmm.
What the fuck?
And we'll jump over to.
Do I get Romnet's or not Romnet's? Leorian's response.
You don't.
Before you cut away.
Okay,
cool.
you don't. Yeah.
Nor does he hear any plaintive dooting.
Indeed not.
Alas.
Damn.
So, Robin.
Mm-hmm.
You are not sure when you sat down, but you are seated at a table. The table is covered in a deep sort of burgundy wool felt. Seated to either side of you are 2 people to your left, 2 people to your right, and across from you is someone standing. You have in front of you 2 cards that are yours, and 3 cards that are, well, the deal, as it were. And there are ivory and ebony chips in front of each of the players. That's right. You're gambling. Looking around the room, there's several other such tables, and on one side of the room, a small chamber ensemble playing a variety of stringed and wind instruments, maybe 5 people. Everyone you can see is dressed very richly, with embroidery and brocade, silver and gold. And everyone you can see is wearing a mask that covers the upper half of their face, some representative, some abstract, all very richly appointed. Gold, silver, gems, and enamel. Must be the dealer is looking at you, seemingly expectantly. Though you are alarmed, having observed this, to discover that you're not sure who you are, and you don't remember how you got here.
Do I remember anything about what I'm playing?
When you focus on it, yeah, no, you do know these rules. You're looking to assemble from a set of possible hands the highest one from the cards that you have and the cards that the dealer turns over in the middle. It's a wagering game. You're partway through, and you seem to have already wagered fairly heavily.
Do I seem to be keeping my face as even as possible? Do I seem to be doing well?
Well, you have about as many chips in front of you as you seem to have put in. Looking at other people's piles, it's comparable. You seem to be competitive, at least, although a lot will ride on this hand.
So I don't know what the hand is in front of me?
Oh, you haven't looked at it yet, but you can.
I do whatever is reasonable or feels reasonable for myself next in this game.
Good deal.
Are you doing this to me because I hate poker and card games?
I did not know that you hated poker and card games. I've learned something today. Let's get a charm plus lie roll from you. 3 dice.
You've sent us to hell.
This would have been so much better for me. Although I didn't even have to roll for dancing.
Ooh. Okay, transparent, so I have to move them. No matches. 5, 1, 6, if it matters.
Looking at the cards in your hand and the cards on the table, you can assemble 2 pairs of cards, which you know as a hand and you think is like reasonable. You sort of look to either side and don't see anything in particular on the faces of your competitors. So you deliberate for a moment and then decide that you've already bet a fair bit. You don't need to up your stake too much, but you put in a small amount and watch carefully as 2 of the other players call and the other 2 fold, revealing everyone's cards. It turns out that the player to your right, a short, pale woman with very elaborate hair and some kind of bird mask, had 3 of a kind and takes the pot. No one really says much. The dealer announces who has won with what hand, but no one else really speaks during this. The music fills in the silence. Now is the time to ante into the next hand if you wish to continue playing, and that option is yours.
Do I notice anyone at the other tables get up and leave?
There is some movement at the other tables. Most people stay, but a few people here and there are moving out in and out.
When I see other people moving in and out, I wrap my knuckles on the table and depart from the game.
The dealer
and
nods
follow them
and moves your chips to a container at one side that he puts a lid on. Then his attention shifts from you immediately. And you are following folks out.
Yeah. I wait until I notice someone else starting to get up from the table and follow them wherever they are headed. As I move, I'm going to check myself as well to see if there's any clues as to who I might be or how I might have gotten into that situation.
Standing, you note that you are taller than almost everyone else here.
I hunch.
You are wearing a flowing, shimmering, you wouldn't necessarily know toga as a reference point, but it's relatively similar to one. This sort of garment depends from one shoulder, covering you fairly modestly other than the other bare shoulder, and it's all of the same kind of dark shimmering cloth lined in a sort of burnished silver. And looking around, people who have gotten up from the tables are leaving in three directions. The wall that has the musicians on it doesn't have a door in it, but the other three walls, two narrower, one wider, the wide one opposite the musicians, all have double doors in them that are propped open, leading to you're not sure where.
They're all three going through a separate door.
There are about 8 people who are moving out of the room and about 6 who are moving in. All 3 doors are in use.
So that means there's going to be more people going through one door than the rest, and that will be the door I go through.
You go through the door in the wider wall, and you have a vertiginous moment as you step through, because the light level and noise level, and maybe even the angle of the floor, shift very suddenly, though you acclimate quickly. You are now in a space that our listeners might perceive as sort of cathedral in its scale and in its layout. You have a stone floor polished to a shine. You have stone columns leading up to arches overhead and a high vaulted ceiling. In between each of these sets of columns, there is a recess to either side with sort of iconographic portraiture, though what exactly it's attempting to depict is an exercise for the viewer of each one. There are human figures, though they are not represented in any kind of perspective or scale. There are all sorts of symbolic abstractions. The whole space is lit by candles hanging in small chandeliers from above and set into sort of alcoves along the walls and among the pillars to either side. It feels like this space should echo, but it doesn't. And there are plenty of people here, but they are speaking softly to one another as they traverse the space, either heading to one alcove or another, or through it to the doors on the far side.
Any, once again, large groups seeming to move in a particular direction?
There are large groups moving both in the direction that you are facing, away from the room with the card tables, and towards you, towards the room with the card tables.
I'll kind of mosey in the direction of those moving away from the card table room. I got distracted by the description of what I was wearing and the fact that I hate it and feel like I should be wearing pants.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna kind of check myself again to see if there's anything. I don't know. Togas don't really have pockets, but I'm gonna see if I'm carrying anything that can give me a hint of who I am and why I'm here.
As you sort of form the intent to check yourself for possessions, you find that you are in fact wearing a sort of woven cloth belt around the middle of this garment, and that there is somewhat incongruously a hammer through a loop in this belt. The hammer doesn't strike you as strange, though you certainly haven't seen anyone else here wearing tools.
I touch the hammer as though seeking comfort from it.
You are not... Oh, go ahead.
I guess in the way of a desperate person conversing with inanimate objects, ask it for help.
There is no verbal answer from the hammer, but you are a little bit surprised to find that you do take comfort from touching it. It seems to ground you a little bit, and suddenly the space you are in doesn't seem quite as cavernous, and the whispered conversations of those around you seem less mysterious. You just feel a little sharper. So, I would like at this moment to shift back over to Ramnet, who does know who he is, and if not where he is.
Approximately.
Yeah, you have sampled some of the refreshments and sort of scoped out the area, from this table. The music seems like it's about ready to start back up. You can see a ensemble to one corner of the room sort of returning to their posts and picking up their instruments when there is all at once a combination of shrieking and laughter from off to your left. Turning to look at it, it is not immediately clear what's going on, but there is a knot of people sort of fluttering about something that you can't quite make out through the crowd.
I will approach, because why not?
As soon as you focus your attention on it and start to move, you sense a murder. A new one.
Charming.
As you get to the knot of people, you perceive that someone looks like a lady, also in a mask, has collapsed to the floor and isn't quite dead, but certainly seems to be on her way. The front of her ball gown is stained in blood. It is not clear what has done the job, but the front of her neck has been cut from one side to the other. No one standing around seems to have a weapon, and some of the folks who are looking on are aghast, others are entertained.
I destroy the murder. It's not fatal.
Fascinating. You destroy the murder, and the woman's hands sort of shoot up to her neck and, sort of try to put pressure, on the wounds. You actually think you may be the only person who sees this happen, but the blood stain on her ball gown gets smaller, by small increments. And then you sort of hear her take a sudden inhalation of and start coughing. This gets the attention of the folks who are watching, and they start muttering to each other, some behind hands, some behind folding fans, some not trying to conceal it all. But as it becomes clear that she might in fact recover, some of them start to drift off as the music starts up.
Who did it?
Interesting. You get the sense of a direction through one of the doors on the end nearest to where you are, but there's no identity there. You just get the image of the mask that they're wearing. A wolf mask with the suggestion of teeth on either side of the mouth.
Wasn't I dancing with a dude with a wolf mask?
Yeah, though this one's in different colors. It would seem that
Okay.
there are several wolf masks. Actually, I'm going to have you make a roll if you would.
Of course.
Let me see. Give me a Sense plus Sight, 6 dice.
That is 4 10s.
4 10s. So, thinking on it, now that you've been like, hey, I was dancing with a guy in a wolf mask. No, this is a different wolf mask. You start looking around, and
Everyone's in a wolf mask?
they're not all wolf masks, but wolves are one motif. No two masks are the same. Wolf masks are, not uncommon.
Is the lady in a prey animal mask?
She's not in an animal mask at all. Hers is much more abstract. Its focus is on swirls and spirals. Some of the masks around you, and you can see maybe 3 examples of this as you look around from where you are now, seem to be contorted, as though suffering. Several of the masks you can see, maybe 4 or 5, as people move around you, seem to be flame-themed. You're not sure that you have an encyclopedic knowledge just by glancing around, but there do seem to be recurring motifs among the masks that people are wearing.
Okay. Well, that sure is a thing. I will ask her if she is all right.
Having taken this glance around, you look back down. She's starting to sit up. You ask, are you all right? And she sort of looks at you and gives a little shake of her head as though to clear it, and says, I suppose I am. Though I didn't think I would be. How curious. And starts to sort of like lever herself upright.
Did you choose your mask?
Whoa. I must have, mustn't I?
I don't know. That's part of what I'm trying to establish.
Of course, silly me, you wouldn't have, asked. Sorry, my mind is all over the place. I could have sworn, and she touches her neck, where there is now just a silver scar with blood flaking off of it. She, kind of recenters herself and says, it's the strangest thing. I don't really remember getting ready for this party. It's grand, of course, but seems dangerous.
I think the danger is part of the point of it, as you seem to have experienced firsthand.
Perhaps that is the case.
I don't know that everyone here is... Well, everyone has been invited or summoned or brought in, shall we say, but I don't know that everyone chose to attend.
Really? I can't imagine who'd want to miss this. And she gestures around.
Well, I suppose it depends on what you're comparing it to. Do you have a recollection of before?
She tilts her head and says, of course Well, I'm quite sure I'm someone very significant. That's right. I came here to try, and her gaze goes a little distant. And then
she doesn't have an Octoritas, does she?
She does not. She sort of snaps her finger and she says, that's right. There was that hussy who was trying to steal my fiancé, and I came here to make sure he would stay mine, although I haven't seen him for a moment.
How would coming here have ensured his...
Well, you see,
Faithfulness.
both she and he are here. I need to go find him, actually. Begging your pardon. And she starts to sort of like, you know, grab the skirts of her gown to hurry towards one of the doors.
Of course, I wish you the best of luck.
You as well, sir. And she hurries toward the near door in the end of the gallery, seemingly off to look for her fiancé. Drew. You have played your horn, and everyone has left the room. The musician has disappeared. There's the door behind you that leads back out to the courtyard, and doors to your left and right that lead who knows where. In front of you is a fireplace. You have a sitting room to yourself.
Parties, man. Well, my initial plan was to chase these people to the ends of the earth, but they don't seem to be acknowledging me, and I haven't actually firmly established that I am capable of speaking to them in any way that doesn't cause them to immediately leave.
Well, and you are perfectly capable of chasing in one direction or the other. You just have to pick.
It's true. I think I walk back outside.
You turn around and you go through the door you came in through, but it doesn't lead you to the courtyard. Instead, it leads you to a massive dining hall. Round tables with white tablecloths, ornate chairs, about 2/3 of which are occupied. There's a sort of loud murmur of voices as people talk and eat, and the clink of silverware and glasses. This is by far the best lit area you've seen of the three, though that isn't saying much. It's still relatively dim. You can't actually see a ceiling above you, though the light sources seem to come from candles on the tables and mounted into the walls. This area is devoid of music. There are doors all around the four walls of the space, one of which you came in through.
These people are communicating and they're not using horns. Can I do what they're doing?
You see no reason not to try.
I find a face that looks relatively approachable and that isn't obviously right in the middle of a conversation, or failing that, I stop their conversation and I greet someone.
At a table relatively near you is a sort of festively rotund man in a mini-piece suit, who is holding forth with some gusto at his table. His mask is of a very sort of jovial expression. His own smile completes it at the bottom, quite complementarily to the smiling eyes and cheeks at the top. And he finishes some story or a bon mot, and those at his table laugh genteelly, and you sort of stride up to one side and you greet him. He sort of turns to regard you and says in a resonant voice, "Oh there, fellow, join us," gesturing to an empty seat. "What have you there? Some sort of horn? Are you one of the musicians? I've rarely spoken to one."
Do I know what a musician is?
Yeah.
Sure. Then yes, I think so. I'm also, I touch my mask. I'm whatever you are, but I'm also whatever they are. There's a lot of multiplicity going on. Would you, should I favor you with a musicianship?
No.
I love
this
how
isn't
you're
the place
going
for it.
full amnesia with this, Drew.
Yeah.
Radical uncertainty. He says, no, this is not a room for music. Put the horn away. Join us. Have a bite to eat.
Eat? Yes, of course. Happy. Very kind of you. Yes, of course. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Good, sir. I sit down.
As you sit down, you regard the table, and it's less full. You didn't see the other people go anywhere, but now it's you, the fellow you were speaking to, and a sort of rail thin woman with severe sort of chin and mouth, who is eating olives out of a bowl at about the rate of one every 3 seconds, as an almost mechanical matter.
I asked my jovial interlocutor, was it something I said, didn't say, played, didn't play? There seemed to be more people a moment ago.
Sort of tilts his head at you and he says, "Oh, that's just the revel for you." And you sort of feel a little jolt. And he says, "People come, people go, people live, people die. It's all part of the fun. Anyway," he gestures at the spread of food and he says, "Help yourself."
The word revel, I've now heard it twice. Do I detect a revel in the food?
Interesting. Yeah.
Okay. I take whatever seems not even necessarily the tastiest or the most appealing, but the most whatever contains the most revelry. That's what I put in my gob.
There is a
revelatory.
There is an iron pan on a wooden, I don't know, I'm going to call it a coaster, that you pull towards you. The pan contains a pie, unopened as yet, and you go to slice it open only to find birds flying out of it to roost some unidentified area above you. All that is left is a steaming pie crust in this pan when they are through. The gentleman you were talking to chortles self-satisfiedly. One of my favorites, that is. Not too filling, but quite delightful.
They seem to be the filling, quite so. I see what you mean, because you can't eat birds in flight. Right.
I've never managed it.
Well, we all must have goals. Tell me, how long have you been at this revel?
He gives you sort of a appraising look, and he says, "Well, quite some time, I suppose. I don't know anyone who keeps track, though. Must have just arrived."
I suppose I myself have just arrived, possibly just come into existence, actually. So the revel, at the risk of asking a silly question, and thank you for indulging me, what is a revel?
He chuckles again and says, "Well, you're in it. A party, a festivity, a celebration." He looks a little thoughtful and adds on, "I guess everyone cuts loose, goes a little crazy."
A little crazy. Do I feel the ping anymore as he describes what revelry is?
It is more like feedback. There was the ping, and now it's growing stronger and more discordant.
All right, I say, and I pop something else in my mouth. I don't even necessarily look at what it was. Let's say I actually just take a crust from the blackbird pie, since this is apparently the height of party food, and I say, if I were to ask you a philosophical query, my friend, if I may be so presumptuous as to call you such, if you were to describe where in the revel I am, what would you say?
Oh. Goodness me, I suppose I'd say you were at dinner.
All right. And so then there are non-dinner portions of the revel, but dinner is a key one. All right, very good. Do they all have birds? Just looking for a pattern here.
He sort of bobs his head. He says, "Well, I've yet to be in a space where I haven't at one point seen a bird mask, but critters themselves are a little rarer, although I believe there's a menagerie somewhere, or at least I've heard tell. I haven't been myself.
A menagerie. Okay. This is a flood of new concepts, each of which I assume is like stubbing my brain.
Yeah, it would be fair to say that your brain is throbbing at this point.
Okay. You said people die. Why would they? At the revel?
Oh. Well, he gestures around and he says, "We are all potentates here, aren't we? Jockeying for position, trying to get one up on someone else. So-and-so's aunt said something about so-and-so's mistress, and scores must be settled. You know how it is."
I do, definitely. Yes.
And what's interesting is that you kind of find that you do, as you say that. Yeah, no, these upper crust shindigs are always a little perilous. People are trying to get one over on each other, and, you know, conversation can be as dangerous as a duel, which sometimes break out. You must have been to one of these before.
Yes. What you're saying, it's wise, if I may say so. It's actually very wise indeed. How does one avoid the danger if one is to live to revel another day?
Oof. Well, if you figure that out, you let me know. I've been sitting here for a little while because most of the food here isn't poisoned. He kind of gives you a little elbow to the ribs.
I pick a piece of the pie out of my teeth and surreptitiously pull it out and flick it onto the floor. Poisoned. So how should I be wary of? Let me be quite frank with you, sir. I don't know who I am, and so I don't know whose aunt I may have offended. And so I don't know who may be trying to poison me or have a particularly angry flock of birds carry me away or simply dislike my music in a way which causes me to die of embarrassment. So I would welcome any help on that score.
He chuckles. He says, "Oh, of course. It's the masquerade license, you see." He doesn't explain further.
Sure, of course, yeah. That's why, of course, that's certainly why. But just if I were an idiot and didn't know what that was, how would I explain it to me?
He gives you sort of a frank look, and he says, "Well, you put on the mask, not so that people won't know who you are. They can figure it out, of course. The masks don't actually conceal your identity, but so that you have an excuse, right? No one can say for sure it was you. And so, if you aren't you, who are you, really?" And so the game becomes figure out who you are, figure out who your enemies are, and try to get them before they get you. It's all quite fun, I'm told, but I've been relaxing here for, I don't know, a while now. It's relatively separate from all that rigmarole. I've had quite enough excitement for a little while. Maybe I'll get back into it in a few courses. We'll see.
You're not my enemy. And
I don't believe so.
Yeah, that's great. So if you can just sit here and eat bird pie, why would anyone, kill each other?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? Once you figure out who you are, then you have as much motivation as you need to pursue your own goals. I dallied in it for a while and then decided it would be more fun if I forgot for a while. So I did.
Decided. So you can decide how much you forget or remember? Is that sort of an adjustable?
He sort of waves his hand in a sort of, sorta, gesture, and he says, "Well, you go one way, you go another, you see where you end up. There's tides, currents." He sort of looks a little vague and then takes a big drink of something from a flagon and puts it down and says, "Look, hope you find your way around, but I'm not really ready to remember yet, so maybe you ought to move along. You're rather pushing me in that direction, aren't you?
Not my intention. Hey, if anything, I hoped to rubber band myself that way and to leave you right where you are. If I am honest, envy you. I feel like I have to know who I am, and I hope that someday it's as simple as sitting here like you're doing. Seems like a piece of paradise, really.
Just, well, if they ever bring any more dessert, it will be.
Well, good meeting you. Which way is the dessert? Maybe I can help you with that.
He waves a hand vaguely somewhere to his left and says, "Enjoy the revel, son. You know where to find me for at least a while."
Yeah, thank you. And I hope you remember no more than you mean to.
Right back at you. And he pulls over a trencher full of some kind of stew.
I pick whichever door is most in the vague direction of the dessert, and I go that way.
You turn on your heel and you start to move, and then you hear the same voice from earlier say Leorian in your head. And we'll circle back to you. Robin, you've moved towards the other end of this big space, hand sort of casually resting on the hammer you've discovered. People seem to sort of drift out of your way as you sort of move through it. And coming to the doors on the other side, you find that they lead into what seems to be some sort of theater. There's an elaborate costumed pageant of some sort going on a raised stage with lights that seem to be maybe mirrored lamps from above it. And between you and that, sort of, facing to your left, are sort of stadium-seated chairs, but not all that many, maybe 50 in total on either side of a central aisle. About half of those are full, masked people, raptly watching whatever is happening on the stage. And directly in front of you, sort of at the end of an aisle at the back of the seats here, is another set of doors. But right where the center aisle is, there's another set of doors to the right, about halfway down. This whole tableau is eerily silent. In fact, you can't hear any of even the relatively muted sounds of the cathedral hall you were just in as you step through the door.
Is there anything going on the stage?
Yes, though what exactly it is, you would be hard-pressed to name. There are backdrops that appear to be swirls of sort of coordinated colors in different sizes, sort of whirling in different directions. There are 3 people on the stage, one of whom is totally naked with a little bit of paint on their body. The other 2 are in extremely elaborate costumes, adorned with gems and thread of gold. All 3 have struck not terribly naturalistic poses, and after a slow count of about 4, they move to new poses totally silently.
This isn't my scene either. Whatever looks like the most polite exit to take, I do.
Okay. After brief deliberation, you decide that the door on the other side opposite you is going to be less obvious to those on the stage than the door directly across from the stage, so you hurry through the back and into that door, and you find yourself now in a cobblestone courtyard. You've come in one door. There are 3 others, one to your left, one to your right, one across from you, set kind of around a large circular area. You are in the outer wall of sort of a colonnade, and then there's arched columns sort of circumscribing a central area that has grass and 1 tree in each quadrant, seemingly identical to one another. and then in the middle, a large still pool, sort of bordered by black stone. Looking up, you can see a dark sky with maybe 6 bright stars in it, and otherwise, you seem to be alone.
I take a moment here to just breathe some fresh air in.
It's really refreshing. It's just chill enough to be slightly brisk, without being like too cold, and it smells like garden.
I'm going to try to get a look at myself in the water and see what mask I'm wearing and just what I look like.
You approach the pool in the middle. It is... You could probably, in any given diameter of it, lay down twice with a little bit of room to spare. And looking sort of down into it, it is perfectly placid, and there's just enough light from those 6 bright stars above to provide you with a reflection. Though as you look at the reflection, there's no ripples, no disturbance in the water, no breeze or anything, yet your reflection ripples. For the first moment, you see yourself with hair loose about your shoulders in a way that feels unaccustomed. And in that one-shouldered, shimmering toga dress with the belt and the hammer just barely visible where you're leaning over the wall. But as you look, it shimmers and your clothes and hair change, though the mask you are wearing, which seems to be a regular, precise rectangle with swirling filigree designs in black enamel, sort of in almost ludicrously fine detail all around it, that stays the same, as does your overall silhouette. But your hair sort of arranges itself into some profusion of high braids, some decorations in them. And the dress you're wearing sort of rearranges itself into shirt and vest and some kind of apron. And you can feel more than see the bottom of it resolve into trousers. And where before you were wearing something like a sandal, now you're wearing a boot.
That seems more right. Can I take off the mask?
You reach up to the mask, and touching it, you don't exactly feel pain, but like there's a flash of strong sensation, and then your arms go numb and kind of fall to your sides. Pins and needles quickly take the place of the numbness as feeling comes back into them.
Can I... The mental image of this is hilarious.
Oh, do
but
tell.
Having realized that my arms get the sensation when I touch it, can I attempt to bump it off with my hammer? I'm just gonna end up clobbering myself.
In which Lissa gets a concussion before she remembers.
It's gonna be like a scraping, because there's the pointier end of it.
You basically use the claws on the back of the hammer to try to pry the mask off. Now, you do get sort of your arm has fallen asleep kind of tingle in your hands where they grip the hammer, but it's not enough to make you lose your grip at this remove. And as you start to pry the mask off, you feel it pulling against your skin where it rests against it.
When does Last Surprise start to play?
when you mention it in the heads of all of our listeners and myself.
For the rest of the week.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. This is, for anybody wondering, a Persona 5 reference.
So it's not budging. It's pulling out the skin.
It's pulling at the skin.
That sigh is very much in character.
Sure.
I put the hammer back. I check myself again to see if I'm in the right clothes or the wrong clothes.
Still in the right clothes.
The toga or my normal outfit?
The ones
one
that
felt right.
Felt right.
Oh, I am in the right ones.
Yes.
Oh, good. Anything else in my pockets now that I'm in different clothes?
Yeah. Now that you have more space for stuff, you also have more stuff. There's a pouch with coins in it. There's something wrapped in a bundle of cloth. There's a number of sort of rings and bracelets in a pouch that seem kind of familiar.
I'll take a peek at whatever's wrapped in the bundle of cloth, being careful after the mask experience not to let my skin necessarily touch it.
Yeah, it is a sort of gnarled wood object that kind of looks like a bearded face with a expression halfway between vacant and disapproving.
Oh, that's weird. I wrap it back up. It makes me feel uncomfy.
Yeah.
I toss a coin into the well and wish that someone would tell me who I am.
All right. Ramnet.
Yes.
Let's rotate back to you. You have, since last we saw you, attempted to pray to Leorian by name. There hasn't been an immediate response to that, but
I suppose I will also add a lack of response from him have immediately switched to Lissa, and in case you've forgotten it, Fury.
And again, like within the space of a moment after that, nothing immediately comes back to you. Though
Okay.
we'll certainly follow up.
Then I'd like to invoke my gift.
Okay.
That most reinvented of gifts.
Indeed. And what are you attempting to divine with it?
I would like to know specifically how to end the illusion, enforcing the party rather than committing any murder of revelry itself.
The answer you get is in the form of a sort of multi-sensory image. You see, it's not in motion, but you can see, hear, smell, feel, to the degree that it applies taste, this chamber. It is lit by one candle on a bedside table. The bed itself is very large, canopied, richly appointed. You can just perceive the room itself, its space, its furniture. It's very quiet. Someone or something is in the bed, and there's sort of a low humming sound. You're not sure exactly if all you need to do is make it to that chamber or do something when you get there. But that chamber is definitely the key here.
I will project this image as a prayer to both of my friends.
Very well.
Get there.
And have you...
Rather, both of my friends who are here.
Sure. Have you moved from the initial gallery you were dancing in since...
I moved from the dancing one to a food one.
Right.
At this point, I would move toward one that seems less revel.
Okay. You do notice, as you start to sort of scout your options here, there are 2 doors you didn't come in through in the space that you're in, and when you look at them, you can perceive that there is a space behind them, but it's more like looking at a heat haze. You can't... Something is preventing you from telling where you would go next if you went through either door.
How does everything look through World Walker?
I am going to use an out-of-character point of reference here. In computer science classes, there is sometimes homework to make a game called Hunt the Wumpus, where the rooms are discrete, but not related to each other spatially. So the puzzle is figuring out how to shoot your one arrow so that it kills the Wumpus before the Wumpus ends up in the same room as you, without hitting yourself with the arrow. So you have X number of rooms, but they can be connected to each other kind of any which way. And your job is to sort of figure out how they are connected, sort of extra spatially. That's kind of the impression that you get from World Walker. It's sort of a snarled knot. Any one door could lead to any other room. Going through it one way is not the same as going through it the other way. And the other thing that you get is the impression that there are potentially hundreds or even thousands of rooms. Interestingly, none of these pathways seem to lead outside of the revel.
I would like to combine a few things here.
Do tell.
I would like to, using World Walker as the site, functionally.
Okay.
Murder a wall. Because what is a door but an absence of wall? And since I am in finery, I would like to imagine or assume a blade that would fit that, since I do tend to go armed, even if it does tend to go unremarked. Is any or all of this possible?
You actually find, using your estate of murder, it's relatively easy to arm yourself. What kind of suitably formal wear weapon would you like to be armed with?
Something that could easily be called either a dagger or a short sword, depending on how diminutive someone would like to be in reference to it. Sharp, obviously. Sturdy, hilted. Silver and black and jeweled is to match my outfit and so on.
Yeah, you perceive the weight of what, upon inspection, turns out to be something resembling a dirk, sort of on the back of your belt, sort of in the small of your back behind you. The pommel and a little bit of the handle being just visible past your hip, when you stand up straight. Turning your attention to the wall, you find that while the wall does not have like a discrete Arcturitas of its own, it seems to be protected by one.
Okay, so probably not worth attempting then.
You do think you could do it. It is up to you whether you want to pour the power into it or not.
No. However, as noted in side comms, I am reflexively just swatting any murder that pings.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting. You are in an area with food, and you, when you turn your attention to it, can perceive that there are some significant pauses that are not paying off here and there. Not constantly, but, 2 or 3 in the span of time that you're in this room where people are expecting someone to start choking or foaming at the mouth and they don't. And then the conversations get awkward.
Honestly, good.
Seems like a pretty low price to pay, all things considered, yeah.
So, we're going to jump real quick over here to Leorian. Having heard this name in your head in the same way that you did previously in the courtyard, you are in a moment able to connect that idea to yourself. That's you. You're Leorian, and it's still a little, it's like thinking through molasses a little bit, but like suddenly you are connected to your past again. You sort of rock a little bit on your heels, but that's right. No, you came here with friends. That was one of their voices. And you start to fill in the blanks over, sort of painfully slowly, but like, still painfully slowly for thought, not painfully slowly for things that you have to do physically, kind of connect ideas back up, sort of standing a little bit blinkered partway to the door in this dining hall.
That knocks me on my heels. So how much do I know? Do I know who to respond to? I don't have my friends' names, but do I know anything about them?
When you think about it, you can retrieve that information, kind of sequentially, piece by piece, put it back together. That was Ramnat. That was his voice. It was his voice in the courtyard too. You haven't seen him since you've been here. How long have you been here? Well, not a productive question. That was him, though.
Okay, so I reach out to Ramnet first and I say, I exist. You exist. I'm me. I don't know how long we've been here, but I'm in a dining hall. Did I get he said he sent a flash of a room. Did I get that as well?
We'll make that something that you get while you are saying.
Okay, that's fine.
Just sync up the timelines. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, good. I was beginning to get worried. We're in a place that is equal parts maze and fuckery.
Just to keep things from getting too far adrift, we're going to jump over and loop in. Robin, here you are sort of straightening from this, reflecting pool and, sort of firming up, your appearance, intent. You've thrown a coin in, to the pool when you hear the name Lissa, in your head. And this sort of completes a circuit where you're like, link that up with the appearance you saw, the hammer, the jewelry, and then everything else kind of follows in a dominoes cascade. Again, slow for thought, but, it's all there. And you, after, a couple of moments of sort of sorting through your thoughts, are like, that was Ramnet's voice. That's right, you came here with him and with Leorian, and you haven't seen them.
I tip the pool. And as I slowly take the pouch off my belt to put my rings and bangles back on, I reach out to both of them and go, where are you? I was really disoriented for a while there. I'm in a courtyard with a large pool.
And you get that flash of the room that Ramnet saw, the bed chamber, while you're speaking here. And sure enough, interrupting the conversation that Ramnet and Leorian were having there, you hear Lissa, kind of say this to you, and with that, you have a sort of inconvenient but manageable quasi-asynchronous prayer chat that you can communicate in.
I will
QAL noises.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Exactly.
Stay where you are. I will come get both of you.
How will you do that? Also, hi, Lissa. Glad you're alive. And that you
Right
know
back
you're
at
you.
ya.
Yeah.
I'm a world walker.
Well, that's true. That's true. All right. I'll stay here. I plunk myself back down at the table with my friend. I say, I know who I am. Don't worry. I won't tell you.
He sort of jerks to look at you and says, make yourself comfortable, I suppose. Good evening to you. Help yourself. And
don't be too perturbed if I talk to myself. Neither of you are in any danger. This back to my familia. Well, he probably can't hear me say it because I'm praying, but...
Right, yeah. He sort of nods affably and goes back to his meal. Unclear whether or not he recognizes you.
Is there a danger beyond the discomfort of this really pretentious party?
Well, I have reason to believe that Ramnet's area of expertise is one of the major pastimes here. That is to say that as...
Oh, yes, I've been swatting them.
Oh, that's for the best. I think
I don't know that it changes much. I suspect this ultimately is a feeding ground. After all, poison is not just a tool of murder. It's a particular type.
Well, I suppose this is what I can contribute now that I know I'm me. I perform a major divination of revelry.
All right.
And what I ask is, how does this revel end?
All right. So that is going to be 2 domain miracle points for the level 5 miracle.
Mm-hmm.
And
do I need to put penetration on this, or?
No.
Okay.
No, nothing opposes your effort to find this information. You ask, how does this revel end? And you get a very brief, not so much like it would be more like a slideshow than video, I guess. If we're talking
the original 12
modern
Monkeys,
media.
not the Terry Gilliam one. Sure.
And you see first kind of the revel more or less as it is. You see again the chamber that you saw thanks to Ramnet. Then you see a large, seemingly unopenable iron gate. And then you see that gate gone, and sort of a hazy red-orange light streaming in from beyond it.
Surprisingly quiet ambulance there, so...
Yeah. And I think that's where the slideshow there ends.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I convey all of that to the group, and I say, we may know enough that we could furiously murder this party.
Yeah, the first step will be finding each other. I hate this so much.
So
Like I said,
yeah,
stay put.
let's
I'll come to
let's
you.
stay put. I can confirm the everyone murdering everyone thing, and I have reason to believe that some but not all of the food is poisoned. Some of it's just full of birds.
Birds, you say?
Yeah. I got the sense that it was a pun, but at the time I don't think I knew what a pun was.
All right.
I don't think I want to eat anything here. I will just hang out in this courtyard. I'm alone here for now. It's perfect.
All right. I'll stay put. You stay put. Romnet, tell me if I can help you. I suppose there's things I can know. It's a party. It's a terrible party. I hate every second of it, but it's a party, so there's probably something that I can contribute. If you find yourself in need of information, I'm a prayer away.
So, ignoring all obvious musical references one could make throughout this,
This one's really testing that resolve, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
how could I use... Well, let's see. I would like to combine World Walker and a Divination of Domain.
Mm-hmm. And what is your question?
What is the shortest path between me and Leorian?
Okay. You have a sense of the direction to take, and you have an incongruous image of a dimly lit, beating heart not housed in any body.
That's only moderately disconcerting.
Sorry, you said I had an image of the path I must take?
You had a sense of a direction to go,
Okay.
and you had an image of a disembodied beating heart.
Well, I'll start going in that direction.
You start going in that direction.
What direction is that?
From where you are standing, it is about 55 degrees to your left. There's a door. And once you pass through that door, you are in what appears to be sort of a lounge of sorts. There are people who are sort of reclining on sofas and divans. Some are smoking. Others seem to be in various states of canoodling. The light is dim and sort of red tinted, but you immediately have an updated bearing. Now the direction to take is about 70 degrees to your right. Sure enough, there's a door there. If you continue to follow, you will pass through a variety of sort of opulent chambers devoted to different types of diversion, until you find yourself in what appears to be an entry hall of sorts. It is mostly gray stone. It is very large. There is a door across from you and a larger door to your right leading to the interior. To your left is a large iron gate, welded shut, that does not appear as a path to World Walker.
Huh.
The direction sense leads you to the door to your right, further into the building.
I will sort of, if I can, mentally mark this.
You are at least sure that you could use a similar trick of World Walker and Divination to get back here in a pinch.
Cool.
Passing through the door indicated by your current miracle, you find yourself passing through one more room and then into a very large dining space that seems to just have a ceiling made of darkness. Lot of round tables with white tablecloths, and there is no further guidance.
Is there any power I can draw to myself from that darkness?
It's frustrating. That darkness isn't really there. It's an illusion.
I mean, sure, but I would imagine that the illusion of darkness offers at least a nod to darkness, as it were.
You could affect it, but you can't draw any power from it.
Okay.
But you are fairly sure that this is the room that Leorian is in. Leorian, have you been doing anything while you have waited?
Well, has my new buddy been doing anything, or has he just sort of been eating and lulling?
Yeah, he's been kind of picking at this and that, and not really, saying much of anything.
In that case, I've been mostly ignoring him and keeping an open line of communication with Lissa, since she seemed to be having a bad time.
Sure. Yeah, I suppose if Leorian or Lissa, there's anything specific you would like to cover or establish through this, you may. Otherwise, you've just been kind of keeping yourselves company.
I give Leorian, and by extension Romnut, a complete breakdown of rooms I was in and the directions in which I exited them.
Okay.
Yeah, I do likewise, and I also let him know that a doorway entered from one side did not yield a sort of Euclidean result, though I don't have that word. When I left it the other way.
No, this place is an absolute tangle. An utter
I mentioned the 2 moons as well, in case nobody has.
I mentioned the 6 stars above me at that point, in case it's useful.
When I get to the room in which I know Leorian to be, I ask that he raise his right arm and wave it.
I do so enthusiastically.
You are certainly the only person doing anything like that. And he's pretty distant in this large room, but you do spot him.
Okay.
And can move over toward him.
I do.
And in short order, the 2 of you are reunited.
I know you're not much of a hugger, but I'm
not generally opposed to hugs. Most people just don't really enjoy hugging murder.
Call me an exception. I give Romnut the enormous hug.
I happily reciprocate.
Hugs are given. The 2 of you are together. And all that remains is to find Lissa.
We iterate toward Lissa.
We do. Yeah. As we leave, I tap the large gentleman on the shoulder and I say, continue remembering only what you wish to remember, my friend.
He looks at you. Of course. Stay alive out there.
I give him his own personal lesser destruction of murder.
I love it.
He just kind of nods affably in your direction as you depart without seeming to be any of the wiser. And you head towards one of the many exterior doors to this room that you are sure heads towards Lissa. You pass into a long but still plenty wide gallery with black and white checkered tile flooring, sort of marble colonnades off to either side with white marble statues with red velvet curtains behind them in each of the alcoves. And it's only when you're about halfway through the room that you realize that these statues are actually performers. They're people dressed and painted like statues who are standing perfectly still in a variety of poses. This room only has the one exit across from you. You go through that, and you come into what a modern person might perceive as similar to a billiards room, but Taraxan sensibilities are unfamiliar with this game. And so it is a room with some aromatic smoke in it and a lot of murmur and clacking of balls and cues and things on cloth-covered tables. Weaving your way through them, you come to the next door, and passing through several more entertainments, you arrive at a sort of hall of mirrors, where it's not exactly like a maze or anything. It's just sort of confusing. These mirrors are larger and more sort of crisp in their image than any that you've seen in the mundane world. But after a moment, you figure out that there is sort of two perpendicular mirrored walls in the middle of the room, and the room itself is sort of hexagonal in shape with mirrored exterior walls. But 3 of the 6 walls, including the one you just came in through, have exits, one of which leads towards Lissa. And crossing through that, you step into the colonnade courtyard that Lissa awaits in, seeing the, arced columns going around the lawn with the tree in each quadrant, and the large reflecting pool in the middle with Lissa standing near it, looking perturbed.
Oh, it is so dusk damn good to see you.
I breathe a giant sigh of relief and rush over and hug both of them.
I will at this point ask, so what kind of mask am I wearing?
Looking at Ramnet, you find that he has, perhaps somewhat unimaginatively, a crow mask on.
Insult to injury.
Oh, no. If you get enough of me together, there will almost certainly be a murder.
I just meant they owed us better. All right, what am I?
I don't know if either of your compatriots will have the insight to say precisely, but you are wearing a mockingbird mask.
I can roll lore for it.
Perfect.
Anyone without a bird mask?
Brutal.
You can also look in the pool, guys.
Yeah, the pool is right there.
Oh yeah, I suppose it's a pair of 8s.
Yeah, you'll be able to recognize it as a mockingbird in stylization.
Do they have any insight additionally into what my fancy looking mask is?
Ooh,
Is it just
that's actually a really good question. Give me just 1 second here. I'm
Shall I roll lore
again? Skills. No. Roll coordination plus perform dance, which is 4 plus a master die.
Yep. So that is a pair of 8s becomes 3 8s.
The various swirls of filigree in this mask actually correspond to the step pattern of an old folk dance. It is the work of a couple of moments hard thought before you realize the potential connection here. The sort of traditional name of the accompaniment to this dance is called hammers and anvils, as it is a very percussive sound.
You are the footwork to a line dance called hammers and anvils.
I almost regretted asking until you said those last 3 words.
It is,
also, is Lissa in her Listen garb as opposed to whatever she might have appeared in?
Sure.
Yeah, she's in.
I will inquire how she accomplished that.
I just really disliked the other clothes and thought hard about it. And also stared at myself in the pool. I've already tipped it well and should still be in good spirits.
I will look into the pool and not so much think toward my standard garb, just think toward my standard accoutrement of things, and perhaps something that is a bit more flowing than this constrictive suit.
And as you watch, your image shimmers without so much as a ripple in the water, and sure enough, you have your things, and your clothes retain something of the style that they were in, but relax into something a little more flowing.
Marvelous.
I think I go to the pool as well and Yeah, just try to look more like me. I think on me now that I know what me is.
And similarly, you find yourself restored to your more accustomed
Good.
appearance and presentation and possessions.
While they do that, I, having the full recollection of myself, I look specifically for the hilt to Feywa's needle.
And indeed, you find it where you remember having stored it.
Okay, good.
Have we established that I also have my lute? You said instrument cases, plural, way back when, but...
Yes, you do.
Cool.
You didn't open that one, but you do have it.
Cool.
World Walker divination toward the heartbeat.
Aha. You take a moment to focus, and you sort of turn slowly and find yourself facing towards the reflecting pool.
Fancy a dip.
I was worried that was going to be necessary. This reminds me too much of the well, actually.
Of course it does. It's very deliberate. This whole thing is set up as a mockery.
Let's go deliver the punchline.
Join hands.
Join hands.
In we jump.
We're off to kill the Chancel.
You join hands and step or jump, however you choose to locomote, into the pool, and without so much as a splash of water, pass through it in a way that is not identical to, but reminiscent of the passage of the canals in Old Fermata before it was brought to the mundane. And you find yourself vertiginously reoriented so that you are stepping on the floor that is the plane of the water that you just stepped through. And you are in a sort of practical masonry room, not super large, especially having come from the rooms that you've come from. And you are looking at what appears to be a pretty ordinary heart that glows faintly with a ruddy light that is the only light source in this room. It is sitting on a plain stone plinth and beating rather normally.
What does it look like with the sight?
With the sight, it looks like a Nobilis with a pretty strong Octoritas. And while it's beating, you don't see blood coming or going. It's not like spraying blood off the side of the plinth. It's just kind of beating where it is. And
Hey, Adam.
Yeah?
I would like a divination of what would happen if this heart were to be murdered.
Good call.
Looking into it, what would happen if this heart were to be murdered? You get sort of a sense of unease. Then you get a momentary flash of the common room of the inn in Boar, then a longer stretch of looking out over a sort of rocky, red, windy wasteland swarming with more bugs than air, all in flight. When that fades, all three of you fairly distantly hear Dosk's voice, sounding somewhat breathless. yet also thick with sleep. He says, I got it to you. It's a different one. It wasn't his heart. I have the forge. And that's where we'll end our session.
Mm-hmm.
So, everyone can have one mortal experience point. Me remembering to do this is the result of me bolding the XP award part of the episode order that I look at during every episode and increasing its font size from 12 to 20.
I am not qualified to grant experience points, but I hereby grant you a GM experience point for remembering anyway.
Yeah.
Why, thank you.
You may spend it as you choose.
It's bold and in size 20 font.
There it goes. That's it. That concludes this session of Dice Punks. Thanks for joining us, and I hope our players and listeners enjoyed it as much as I did. This one I enjoyed quite a bit, as you may have been able to guess. I hope that all of our listeners will join us again next time. If you're hearing us now, then you probably know where to listen to this, but we can be found almost any place one can listen to podcasts, as well as on the wider web at dicepunks.com and on Twitter as at dicepunks, at least until that site shuts down. With that, I think we're ready to say farewell, so say goodbye to the kind folks at home, players.
Thanks for listening. If the party sucks, and sometimes the party will suck, find your friends, and then find the way the fuck out.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Don't underestimate the value of getting a breath of fresh air if you're feeling stifled or anxious. It may help you get to the heart of things.
Thanks for listening, folks, and make sure it's the right heart before you stab
it. All good advice, frankly. And as the poet once said, pawns standing in awe of the game, of the stage, you've worked so hard to build an empire of secret rooms to display yourself and add to your wealth. Thank you for tuning in, dear listeners, and stick around through the Advent stuff for Leorian's lore. The songs in this episode, Theme of the Dice Punks, and its acoustic version were written and recorded by the Viscount of Tempo and his element, Drew. Cover art and editing were done by Joanne, who's appeared on the podcast now and again. Check out her work around the internet, where she goes by Anything Sows. Site design and graphics for dicepunks.com are by Robin, the player behind Lissa and Mavia, the Nobilis of Fury and Madness. Rain and the one-roll engine it runs on were created by Greg Stolze, whose work can be found in a lot of places, but you can check out gregstolze.com. Nobilis was created by Jenna Caterin Moran and can be found alongside much of her other work, both in and out of tabletop role-playing, at afarinsunlessland.wordpress.com. Links to both systems and authors can be found on the Punk Grimoire section of our website, dicepunks.com. Thanks so much for listening. If you liked what you heard, well, that's a reward enough on its own, but if you're so inclined, you can help us out by rating and reviewing us wherever you listen to us, telling your friends who you think would like us to give us a listen, and even heading over to our Patreon at patreon.com/dicepunks. We have fun rewards available to backers, including a patron-only Discord and access to the Dice Peaks After Show for episodes 1 and following. Regardless, we hope you'll tune in again, and until then, remember, subtlety is for cowards.
So ever since that arcane and archaic text Currents of the Cosmos came into our lives, something has been poking at the back of my mind. I kept thinking that I'd heard that title somewhere before, or several places really, and then it hit me. There's a text about maritime trading in Keaton Bay called Currents of Calmus, But that wasn't it. There's a dish they serve in Nema made with a strange berry called currents of the cosmos, spelled differently, you understand. But no, it was simpler than that. The book, with its proper title, was simply something I'd heard Dosk speak about. It didn't stick in my mind the way other names or places had, because there were so many things about which he spoke with clear affection, or, just as often, and sometimes simultaneously, a tentative sort of regret. But not this book. This book occupied a fixed place in his life, but one without a fixed meaning. He wouldn't be who he is without it, but then who would he be? Anyway, seems there's a good chance Vruda's book will be better.